Hello, and welcome to what I think is either episode 102 or 103 of 10,000 Stitches podcast, a podcast all about knitting. I can't remember what episode number it is because I can't remember when I recorded last. So and today might be a weird one and might not be like the most, I guess, professional, because life is cray-cray right now, which we might talk about later, but I feel like I am juggling like 10 different things and things are getting dropped all over the place. So hopefully we make it. But anyway, I have lots to talk about today because I think it has been 2 weeks since I recorded last, and I think the last time I recorded was just that quick little sort of like setup update. So like there wasn't even much to that episode. So I have a lot to talk about. So we'll talk about some finished objects, some never gonna be finished objects, some works in progress, what's coming up next, new stuff, knit along news, and then chit chat. So settle in. If you wanted to find me on the interwebs, so by the way, my name is Andy. If you wanted to find me on the interwebs, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Ravelry as Purlbug, Purlbug. You can find my blog at thepurlbug.com, and then we have the 10,000 Stitches podcast group on Ravelry. Also, I feel very sweaty today. I have the air conditioning on in my apartment, but it's kind of just... And it's not even that warm. Like, it's not even that hot out today, but it has been unseasonably warm here. And so I just feel like I've just been very sweaty all day, so I apologize for that. Maybe it's for the best that half my face is in shadow right now. Anyway, so let's start with never going to be finished objects. I don't have a better name for these, but these are some things that had been languishing, and I decided this past week that it was time to just frog them because... each one has a different reason. So, why is this my life? Okay, so the first one that I frogged is my Ribwise tank. This was a pattern by Pearl Soho, and if you remember, I was using, so I basically had the front of it done. It's a tank top that's knit in 2 pieces, and I basically had the front done, and it was using this really pretty pale blue yarn, and then the back was going to be a darker blue. And the reason I frogged this, and with both of these things that I frogged, it has nothing to do with the pattern. Like, I cannot emphasize enough, it has nothing to do with the pattern. The patterns are great. With this one, it was because I really wanted the finished object. Like, the finished object looked beautiful. I definitely thought it looked wearable. I did mention the last time I talked about it that, like, there was maybe going to be an issue with, like, the neckline just being very low in the front, but I probably could have dealt with that. I certainly could have ripped back and just raised the neckline in the front. Like, that's definitely a thing I could have done. But when I got thinking about it, I realized that, like, while I love the piece and I could see, like, it fitting me very well, it doesn't really have a place in my wardrobe. And so I think sometimes, like, that's a thing that knitters tend to forget. Like, kind of one of the things they tell you, like, if you're trying to build like a nice cohesive wardrobe, is when you're out shopping to always try and, like, think of any piece that you pick up, like, how does this fit in my wardrobe, right? Like, can you think of 3 things that you already own that you would wear that with? Like, for a top, say, like, can you think of 3 bottoms you have that this would go with that you already own? And so that's sort of where I ran into the problem with the Ribwise tank, is like, I definitely could see where it would look nice, and it definitely would be cute with jeans, or jean shorts, but then again, it's like, it's a wool tank top, so I'm not probably going to wear it in the summer, which would mean it'd be a winter piece, but I'm not really wearing jeans that much right now. So it's like, okay, well, I also don't wear skirts. Like, I either wear dresses or I wear jeans and t-shirts. So I was like, okay, it just doesn't have a place in my wardrobe is kind of what I realized. And so when I realized that, I was like, you know what? Like, there's no point in continuing with this and then having a piece that I will never wear and will wind up ripping out later. So I just decided to frog it. So these are, basically, this is one full skein of yarn that came out of the front, and then the back I had never started. So yeah, that is no more. I've actually already started another project with the yarn that was going to be the back, which we'll talk about when we get to my whips. But this yarn, obviously, you can see it's all wiggly still. It needs to be washed and kind of relaxed again, I guess, whatever you want to call that. So yeah, I don't know what this will become. And, you know, I also have, so I dyed up 100 gram skeins of both colors, and then I also have a 50 gram skein of each color. So I don't know what I'm gonna do with those 50 gram skeins. Those might just become short socks, we'll see. But yeah, so I'm excited to use this yarn in something else and just not have that project hanging over my head. So that's the first one that I frogged. The second one that I frogged is my Luella Cardi. And again, has nothing to do with the pattern. And this was the thing that, like, you know, I definitely can see where it would go into my wardrobe. Like that, even that is not the issue. I think I realized that, like, I just don't have the mental fortitude to finish it right now. And it was just going to sit for a long, long time. Like, it's been sitting for quite a while. Like, I never did wind up putting the needles back in it after I sort of, like, gave it a gentle blocking to, like, figure out what was going on with the yoke. And so it's like it had been sitting for a while. It was going to continue to, like, I just didn't see myself picking it back up anytime before I move at the end of the year. And I was like, you know what? Like, if I want to reknit it once I move and once I maybe have more headspace for it, like, I can certainly reknit it, you know, probably not with the same yarn because I'm going to use up the yarn for other things, but, like, I can reknit it with a different color of yarn and that's fine. But, like, I don't really like having, you know, big projects like that just lingering. So I figured, you know what, I'm just going to frog it. Again, if I want to come back to it, I will, but maybe I won't. I don't know. Like I said, I want it. Like, I think I can see where it fits in my wardrobe. I just don't want to have it hanging over my head. So this is one of the skeins. This is the skein that basically knit up the entire yoke. And again, you can see it's all wiggly, needs to be kind of rinsed and stretched out again or relaxed again. And then I had, at the point when I frogged it, I had started alternating in a second skein, which that I've already again cast on a different project with, which we will talk about in a little bit. So yeah, those two things are no more. Those were my two pretty big projects. And it feels good. Like, it feels good to kind of have them off the needles and just, like, out of my head. And, like, I think that, you know, don't feel bad about frogging things because, you know, sometimes, like, I don't know, sometimes I feel sort of, like, just bad about frogging things, or like I've somehow failed in a way, and it's like, no, like, that's totally fine. Things change, especially things like these, which had been sitting or kind of ongoing for a very long time. It's like, you know, the motivations that I had when I started them are not present anymore, so, like, there's no reason to keep working on them and wasting precious time that I have for my knitting on things that I don't really want to be working on. So those are never going to be finished things. So let's talk about a finished object, shall we? And that is a pair of short socks. So this, I don't remember if I showed this off when it was a half object, but this is, again, using my pattern that I recently published for this little heel tab. This is, actually I used one of these for the pictures in that pattern. So you can see little heel tabby. Otherwise it's basically just well, it's not a vanilla sock. I did some texture work on the top, which you guys aren't gonna be able to see because it's pretty dark. Maybe you can. So the yarn that's used, the majority of it is the yarn that I used to make Wesley's latest pair of Man Friend socks out of. God, what was the name of the yarn? It's Yokogani yarns in the Riverfish colorway, which is a one-of-a-kind colorway, and I got this at Vogue Knitting Live. So it's very exciting that I was able to get a pair of socks for Wesley and myself out of it because we went to Vogue Knitting Live together this year. And then the toes are from a mini that a viewer sent me, so, which I thought, you know, went pretty well. Yeah, and the texture on the top is Hermione's Everyday Socks. Otherwise, it's basically my normal sort of vanilla recipe. 64 stitches knit on a US 1, which is a 2.25 millimeter needle. Yeah, not much to talk about. I am super excited. I haven't worn these yet because I wanted to show them off, and because one of them was sitting here at home and one of them was sitting at my desk at work. So that has kept me from wearing them, which meant that they are nice and fresh for me to show off for you guys. So yeah, super excited about these. I've been wearing my other short socks like crazy. I actually have another pair of short socks that I finished since you guys have, or since I've seen you guys. But they are currently in the laundry. So I will try and show those off the next time I record. But yeah, I've been wearing the short socks like crazy, especially with the sort of unseasonable heat we've been having here. These have been really great. So yeah, that's my finished object. Then I also have a half object, which I don't think you guys have seen. I don't think I've shown this off. This is the pattern that I was test knitting for Ash, who is Original Knitter on Instagram and Ravelry. And this pattern was the Witching Hour socks, and it's this beautiful cable pattern that I was test knitting for her. And of course, putting it on a blocker, you can't really see the cable, but this is, so it's a plain back, which is really nice, and then it has this really beautiful cable pattern on the front of the leg, which looks like that. And yeah, really enjoyable knit. The pattern has been published. It went up October 1st, so I will make sure to link to everything. Oh, I guess anything that I'm going to link to, by the way, if you're watching on via the embedded video on the blog post or the Ravelry thread, everything will be linked right below the video. If you're watching on YouTube, there will be a link in the description box to the blog post, and then everything will be linked there. But yeah, I'll make sure to link to the pattern, but I think it went up October 1st. Yeah, can't recommend it enough. And I really do need to get the other one cast on, but I've just been really seeking out sort of like brainless knitting this since I finished this one. So it might wait a little bit until I just am ready to do something a little bit more detailed again. It's not this is a very intuitive pattern. It's a really good one, and it's not like super complicated or anything, but it's just, I have been looking for really brainless knitting. So there's that. But yeah, Witching Hour socks, half object. Cool. Okay, so let's get into some whips. Man, it is just so hot. I have my thermostat set to 79 degrees, so I know it can't be more than 79 degrees in here, but I am just dying and sweating. All right, we're keeping it real professional today, guys. Okay, so let's talk works in progress. So one work in progress I have that I don't have here to show you guys is my second perfect reversible watch cap, I think is what it's called. I showed off the first one that I made, which wound up coming out just a little bit too small for me. So the second one is at work, so I don't have that here. I actually have started a third one, which we'll talk about in a minute or two. But yeah, it's just a basic 1x1 rib hat. I'll talk about it when we get to the one I have here to show you guys. But that one is in my desk at work, so I don't have it to show you for you guys. But I do have some other stuff to show off. So I have started I restarted my Halloween socks because I think I maybe showed them off here before, and I decided that I didn't like the way that they were striping up. So I was doing them basically the same way that I did my Christmas socks, which was little 4-row stripes. And I just realized that I didn't really like how that was looking for these yarns. So the two yarns that I'm using for these are this one, which is a purple and green yarn, a variegated purple and green that I dyed up. I dyed both of these up. And then this one, which is like a bright, blaze orange. These are both on a 75/25 BFL nylon base. And yeah, so the 4-row stripes I just wasn't really liking. So I decided that I would frog the whole thing and start over. And so what I wound up doing this time is I basically knit the foot in just the purple and green, right? So I knit the foot in just one color, basically, one yarn. So the foot is just plain vanilla all the way up. I did a fish slips kiss heel, and I really love how the yarn lined up for the heel. That was just great. And now that I'm on the leg, I'm actually doing big, thick 20-row stripes, which I think look a little bit better. I think it just lets the colors shine a little bit more. And I'm just kind of now to the point where I'm starting to increase for the leg, for the calf. So yeah, I mean, otherwise they're basically just going to be pretty vanilla. Yeah, not much to say about them. Other than I have not been working on them as much as I would like to, and I'm really doubting that I'm actually going to have them done for Halloween, but what can you do? I really, really am liking the big, bold stripes, though. I think that looks way better. So if I can, I'll try and find a picture of how it looked before, so you guys can see. I just, it didn't look bad, but I didn't think it looked as good as it could have, because, I don't know. I thought the colors looked a little washed out when they were so thin like that. This is being knit on a US 0, which is a 2mm needle, and the foot part is 72 stitches, and then I am going to wind up increasing up to 108 stitches, and then I'm actually on this one going to try so I'm on the Christmas ones, right, so I increased pretty evenly up to 108 stitches, and then I basically knit a chunk kind of straight and then did the little cuff. So this one, what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to increase up to 108 stitches, and I'll work however many rows I need to straight. And then I'm actually thinking about sort of tapering it in at the top, so doing like just a couple decreases, maybe down to like 100 stitches or something at the top, just to kind of have it hug the top of my calf a little bit better, and maybe increase the odds that it will not fall down, right? If it can kind of come up above my knee. I'm also thinking about making these just a little bit taller than my Christmas ones, which were just, it's like, oh, they were just maybe an inch from being the right length. Not like they're not long enough, but like, I especially think that with just an inch more length and sort of that taper in at the top, they should fit perfectly. So I'm super excited for that. And yeah, cool, awesome. So that's that. And then I guess my other sock whip right now is actually another pair of knee socks, but they're not for me. These are for a friend of mine, and these are using the yarn from the Luella Cardi. So this is the skein that I had only maybe knit like 2 rows in as I started alternating skeins, so I didn't feel the need to sort of like wash it and relax it. But yeah, so these are for a friend of mine who's also a knitter, but she does not knit socks. And she was complaining about not being able, like she likes to wear fun socks. Like she really enjoys wearing fun, crazy socks. And she was complaining about how she can't find green socks, like green women's fun socks. And I was like, boy, do I have just the thing for you. So I decided I would knit her a pair of socks. She is much shorter than I am. She's maybe, probably more than 6 inches shorter than I am. So her feet are a lot smaller than mine, which is great. So I actually have already made it through the heel on this first one. And I started this on Friday. And I'm kind of putting it on hold for just like a hot minute right now, because I do want her to try it on before I get too far up the leg, because like I took the measurements and everything like that, but I'm just not, I want to see it on her foot before I keep going up the leg, just to make sure that I didn't make the foot too short, because like it just looks so small. But then again, you want it to have negative ease. So, but yeah, this is a 56 stitch sock. It's the first time I've ever knit a 56 stitch sock myself, because that's not the size my foot is. Obviously I'm doing it toe up, and I'm knitting this on a US 1, which is a 2.25 millimeter needle. Again, another Fish Lips Kiss heel, and then I'm doing sort of basically the little cable detail from the Little Cable Knee Highs by Pearl Soho on the back here. Come on. There you go. So I'm like 1 cable twist in. So like I said, I just want to make sure that these fit her before I get too far along. But yeah, otherwise I'm hoping they should go pretty quick, because like I said, she's a lot shorter than I am, and it's a smaller diameter. But I'm basically going to try and use the same sort of math that I used for my own, which is that I'm going to increase the number of stitches by 50% for the calf. So that will wind up being, 56 plus another 28, which is some unknowable number. 84? Is that right? Might be 84. I don't know. Math is hard. But yeah, so that's that. I'm not sure if I'll be able to get the entire pair of knee highs out of 1 ball. If I can't, that's fine. I'll probably break into this one a little bit, but I think I should get close. So we'll see. I guess I'll let you guys know. But yeah, that's my other sock work in progress. Which brings me to the watch cap that I mentioned. So this one I just cast on this morning. Well, actually, I had cast it on last night, and then I ripped it out. So this is another one of those perfect reversible watch caps. And this one I'm actually knitting for, well, hopefully it's going to be for a friend of mine. So this is the yarn. So like I said, this is the yarn that was meant to complement the light blue in the Ribwise tank. And I'm just not entirely sure about it, because it doesn't show up very well on camera. And I think it looks appropriate for a guy's hat, but I'm just not entirely sure. So if it turns out that, like, I'm going to ask some friends, because it's for a guy friend of mine, and I'm going to ask some friends of mine and see what they think about it. And if it turns out that it's too girly, like, I will find someone else to give it to, like, no problem. But yeah, so I cast this on last night, and I cast it on using a tubular cast on, and I just decided I didn't really like the way that looked. Like it looks neat, but I feel like it didn't actually look as neat as it could have. So I frogged it and cast it back on again this morning, and I just used sort of my standard German twisted cast on that I use for socks, which I think produces a really nice neat edge. And like, yes, it puts pearl bumps on the wrong side, but like you don't even notice because it's at the edge, right? Like it's fine. So yeah, I'm about 10 rows or so into this, and I'm knitting this on US 2s, which are 2.75 millimeter needles, because I did the first one on a US 1.5, which is what the pattern calls for. So US 1.5 is a 2.5 millimeter needle. And that one, like I said, was just a little bit too small. And so when I started the second one, which is the one that's at work, that's again on the 1.5, the US 1.5, but that one I cast on an additional 12 stitches because you kind of have to adjust your stitch count in increments of 12. And so this one I decided I would go back to the original stitch count, but do a size bigger needle, which I think will work better. So these are US 2s. I just bought these needles yesterday, so it's a pair of Chow Goos, 24-inch Chow Goos, so I can knit it on 2 circulars. And I forgot how much I don't really like knitting on 2 circulars, like, because no matter what, like when I'm knitting, right, so I have the needle that I'm kind of knitting with, and then the other one always winds up like poking me in the stomach, and I don't like it, especially with these because the tips are kind of sharp. So I actually wound up going on Etsy and ordering a 40-inch US 2 that I can use for magic loops. So hopefully that will be here sooner rather than later. But yeah, otherwise, the only thing that I'm doing with this it's not really different. Well, it's different for me. It's not really like a modification to the pattern, but so this is a 1x1 rib hat, right? And it's good. Like, it's a good hat. I think it's going to be my go-to hat for men in my life who I like enough to knit a fingering weight 1x1 rib hat. And it's really great. I really like it. I really like the crown decreases. Everything about it is great. My problem is that my 1x1 rib looks sloppy. And I know I'm not the only one. Like, I've heard other knitters complain about this. And so usually on socks, I get away with this by doing twisted rib, which just, kind of tightens things up and makes it look a little bit nicer. But like, I'm not doing twisted rib for an entire hat. Like, ain't nobody got time for that. So I was looking online to try and figure out if there's a way to make 1x1 rib look neater, and it turns out there totally is. And I'll link to this. There was a blog post that I found that had a really good picture tutorial for this. But basically, what they said to do, I guess there's like Western European and Eastern European ways to do knit and purl stitches, and the way that I was doing my knit and purl stitches are both Western European. And when you do it that way, apparently your purl stitches wind up using just a fraction more yarn than the knit stitches. And so they are a little bit looser, and that's what makes like ribbing look really sloppy, because your knit stitches look sloppy because the stitch next to them has just a little bit of extra yarn, which then allows the knit stitches to stretch out. And of course, like, washing and blocking can fix a lot of this. But it turns out that if you use sort of the normal Western style knit stitch, which is your needle goes through the front loop or the front leg of your stitch, and then you wrap your yarn around the back of it, right? And then you do that, right? So that's sort of the normal knit stitch that I know. And then if you do the Eastern style purl stitch, which is where instead of purling through the front loop and going over, you purl through the back loop and you go under, right? So your stitch doesn't wind up twisted because you're both purling through the back loop and wrapping your yarn the other way. But it turns out that it uses just a fraction less yarn, which tightens up your purl stitches, which tightens up your ribbing. And so I have been doing that, and I think it is working really, really well. I don't know if you guys will be able to see this or not, but basically what you're seeing on top is the wrong side, and on bottom is the right side, or the outside, basically. And you can see that they look a lot neater and tidier. Hopefully you can see that. Anyway, I think it's definitely worth trying. It takes, a little bit of wrapping your brain around, but like, and I have no idea. I would assume that you could probably use this method of purling just every time you have to purl. Like, I might just switch to this method of purling forever, because it just, it's not like it's any harder, and it does help my ribbing look better. So that's something I've been doing. If your ribbing looks not so great, give it a try. So that's that. Otherwise, everything else is basically going to be 2 pattern, and I'm just slogging away at it because these things just take forever. So there's that. Okay, I feel feel like I've been talking for a while. So let's talk really quick about some new stuff and what's coming up next. And then I might take a little break to grab some water, and then we'll talk about the knit along stuff. So first, let's talk about new stuff. So like I said, I got those needles yesterday because I took a friend of mine, actually the friend that the green socks are for. She and I went up to a knitting store here in Richmond, which is one of my favorite knitting stores here in Richmond. I've talked about it before. It's called the Knitting Bee. So if you are in Richmond, highly recommend you check it out if you've never been there. But yeah, so I picked up those needles, and I wasn't looking for yarn, but I mean, you know how we are, right? Like, you're never looking for it, but it finds you, and then you have to take it home with you, right? So I found this yarn, and this is I think it's a new brand to the store, and it's this Queensland Collection Perth yarn. I've never seen this brand before, but it sort of makes me think of like a Crazy Zauberball. Like, if you look at that, doesn't that look like a Crazy Zauberball? Like, it's a 2-ply and it's got the barber pulling and sort of the long color gradients. So I was, and it was $13 a skein, right? $13 for a 100-gram skein. And I'm like, can't complain about that. So I actually picked up 2. They're in the same colorway, which is this King's Canyon. They're the same dye lot, but of course, when you're dealing with these sort of barber pulley yarns, like, it's not guaranteed that they're actually going to look the same, even if the dye lot and the colorway are the same. But I tried to pick 2 that looked sort of similar. And I thought these would be really fun to make knee highs out of. Probably not until after I move. Like, these might be something that I just sort of stash away for after I move at the end of the year. But I thought that they would make a really fun pair of knee highs. And I don't know if I would just knit them straight or if I would wind up knitting them sort of like pulling from the inside and the outside of the ball to kind of do alternating stripes. Like, I've done that before with Crazy Zauberball, and that's really fun. So I don't know. I guess we'll see kind of what I decide to do with that. But yeah, I'm super excited to have them in my collection, and they look really fun to knit up, and yeah, pretty cool. Like I said, $13 a skein, so like pretty good deal too. It's an 80/20 superwash nylon, 437 yards per 100 grams. Can't complain. So yeah, that's that. So that's the extent of the news. Oh, I also picked up a bottle of Eucalan, but that was just a thing that I needed because mine was out. So yeah, that's a utility purchase, which I was actually about to order off of Amazon. I had it in my cart on Amazon, and I was like, oh, I'm going to a yarn store. Let's just pick it up from a local yarn store, because 1, I'd rather support a local yarn store than Amazon, and 2, it costs the same. So like, why not just buy it locally? So yeah, that's the new stuff. So in terms of what's coming up next, like I said, I feel like I just have like a million things going on right now, and I'm really gravitating towards things which are just simple. Like, sort of my motto right now is simple, beautiful, useful, right? Like, that's my criteria for what I'm knitting. And so like the beautiful is coming typically from the yarns, right? I want to be using beautiful yarns that I enjoy knitting with, but I want the things that I'm knitting to be simple and useful. Hence like the hats and the socks and things. So I actually went through and kind of thought about like, okay, what is everything that I have right now? And in terms of like the stash yarn, in terms of like whips, in terms of just everything like that, I went through and thought about like, okay, what do I have? And I made a list on my phone, which I might be, hopefully it's on the screen right now so you guys can see it, but I made a list on my phone of like all the things that I want to get done before I move at the end of the year. So I kind of, you know, and this way I can keep going back to that list and saying, you know, checking things off. You can see probably that there's a couple things already checked off, like frogging those projects and a couple other things like that. But basically it's like I want to finish up stuff that's lingering. I want to get the rest of this stuff done. There's a couple of gifts that I want to knit for people. So yeah, so I want to knit the hat that I'm working on is a gift. I have another hat that I want to make for another guy friend of mine, so that's another gift. I have the socks that I'm making for my friend, the green socks. I have the Halloween socks that I want to get finished up. I also have my birthday socks, which are probably not going to get started anywhere near my birthday, but that's using that neon sort of lemon lime yarn that I showed off maybe in my last full episode. I have... what else? I have some shorties that I want to make, but those are kind of like bonus, like if I get other things done. And then the other thing I really want to clear off is my Viajante, which I grabbed just because I figured I would show it off just so you guys kind of know where it is. So my Viajante, if you remember, that was again being knit out of this green yarn, and I basically had decided that I was going to put it on hold because I wanted to kind of keep the length that it was. Like, I don't want it to become the giant cowl thing. I wanted it to just be sort of a small bandana thing. So sort of to get a sense of where it's at right now. So right now it's sort of basically a nice neck warmer kind of cowl thing, you know, a nice sort of bandana shaped neck warmer. Man, that is warm. Oh, okay, that was a mistake. So I basically had left it where it was, and I have this much yarn left, which again, I'm hoping is enough to finish it. Maybe it's not. I might need to bust in for just like a couple more rows. But basically all I'm going to do at this point was I am going to put some garter, a couple rows of garter stitch on the bottom to kind of finish it off and then call it good. So this one, once I get back to it, should be pretty quick to finish up, especially because all I need to do is pop the tips back on my needles and do it. But yeah, that's another thing that I do want to get finished up soon, and I just haven't been motivated to work on it lately because it's been so hot, but it's got to cool down at some point. So hopefully soon I will actually want to wear it, which will motivate me to get it finished. So probably the next time you guys see that, it will be finished, because I think it will only take me a couple days once I pick it back up again. So yeah, that's sort of the thoughts on what's coming up next. Like I said, simple, beautiful, useful, lots of basic things, lots of just trying to clear out some of my stash and maybe get some things knit up before I move. But yeah, that's that. So I'm gonna go grab a drink of water and then we'll be back to talk about knit along stuff. Okay, so knit along. So the knit along that's going on right now is the Simple Cal, which we are actually a little bit more than halfway through, which is crazy. I feel like I feel really bad because I feel like I have not been probably as present in the Ravelry group as I would prefer, but we have 42 FOs in the FO thread right now, so that's pretty awesome. And as a reminder of sort of like what the themes are, so the technique theme is basically is totally vanilla, right? So something which is basic, plain, totally vanilla. So that would be like completely stockinette, basically. And then the color theme is solid colors of any kind, right? And again, if you're using hand-dyed yarn, solid, means tonal or semi-solid, whatever, right? That's totally fine too. So as usual, I will link to the chatter thread, which has the rules in it, so if you can go there and get a better idea of the rules. Or if you're in the Ravelry group, just go back out and the chatter thread's there. But yeah, lots of finished objects, and I'm excited to see more of them rolling in. And I don't have prize yarn for it yet, but hopefully soon. Hopefully I can pick some up when I go up to Tennessee in a couple weeks. Or well, when Wesley and I go to Tennessee from Alabama in a couple weeks, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But anyway, yeah, hopefully I'll have prize stuff to show off soon. I looked yesterday at the yarn store here, and I just didn't really see anything that looked kind of special and locally dyed and stuff like that. Like I love the Knitting Bee, but I don't think they really specialize in sort of like local dyers and stuff, which is totally fine. So yeah, that's knit along stuff. For question of the week, I don't know, I didn't think about this. Question of the week, does it feel like fall where you are yet? Because it's hot as anything here, like I know I've mentioned. It was actually 90 degrees one day this past week, just ridiculous. And what's really crazy is when I talk to like my mom, who's back in Minnesota, she's like, oh yeah, it's in like the 50s here. And I'm just like, what the heck? So yeah, does it feel like fall where you are? Are you enjoying fall things, or are you also sweating to death like I am? But yeah, that's my question of the week. So if that's all you were here for, that's going to be it for like the knitting kind of stuff. So if that's all you were here for, thanks very much for hanging out, and I will see you guys hopefully again soon. Otherwise, let's do some chit chat. So my life has just been nuts lately. Let's see, what is worth updating? So I think I had mentioned whenever I recorded previously sometime that I was going to have to get some more dental work done. I'm in the middle of that process now. Thank you for all the encouraging words, for those of you who did give me some encouragement and reassurance that I was going to be fine. Thank you. I very much appreciate it. So I'm having a crown put on one of my teeth. So right now I've had the first appointment. So I've had all the prep work done, and I have a temporary on right now. And then on Friday of this next week, I'm getting the permanent crown put on. So that'll be good to be done with that whole process, mostly so that I can eat on that side of my mouth again. But like the prep process was surprisingly fine. I think maybe because I've had so many fillings done, like it just didn't seem any different than that. And my dentist is not shy with the Novocaine, so that also helps. But yeah, so I had that. What else? Wesley visited. He was here last weekend, which I thought about vlogging it, and I kind of had the best intentions to vlog. And then we actually wound up spending a bunch of time with some of my friends because Wesley wanted to meet some of these kind of new friends I've made since he moved away. And it just, I don't know, like I don't really like vlogging around other people, like around my friends. And it just, was kind of more of one of those like just live in the moment kind of things. So we just hung out with friends, did fun stuff, and then he went back home, which was sad. But it's, we're on the home stretch now. Like I basically have 2 more visits out to Alabama before he will come back and then help me move, and then I'll be there. So really counting down the days now. Well, we're still counting down in weeks, not quite in days yet, but I mean, it's getting there. It's getting there pretty quick. Still don't have a job yet, so there's that. But I'm not super concerned. What else? Work here has just been busy. Just a lot to do, and some of this is like my own fault. Like I've sort of taken on a lot of extra stuff. Like this week we are taking the first ever field trip for the Society of Physics Students, which is the student org that I am the advisor for, and we are taking a field trip up to the Udvar-Hazy Center, which is part of the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum up in DC. So that's going to be hopefully really fun. I'm really nervous about it. I'm partly because like we just don't have a ton of people going. Like, I don't know. There was some issues with like scheduling stuff. Like we scheduled it on a weekday, which I didn't think was ideal, but that's what my officers said worked best for them. And then it turns out that most of them can't go anyway. So like, just, I don't know, whatever. It's going to be good. It's going to be fun. So that's happening this week. I just have like a ton of meetings, like more meetings than ever this semester, which is weird. My classes are going good, but it's just like there's a lot of work for the classes I'm taking, and then just trying to keep my life together. I also have decided to, like, I know I say this a lot, right? Like trying to get back into exercising and trying to like get healthier again, but I decided like I really needed a bigger, I don't know if it's a bigger carrot or a bigger stick, but I signed up for an 8K race, a run or whatever, in November. So it's part of like, they do the Richmond Marathon here. So they have the marathon, the half marathon, and then this 8K. So I was like, half marathon, I am not ready for. I really wanted to try and run a marathon before I turned 30, which is not this year. I turn 30 next year, but I just don't know that that's going to happen. But anyway, so I figured the 8K would be something that is doable. 8K is about 5 miles or so. So, I mean, it's further than I can run right now, but it seemed like something that I could train for in about 6 weeks and reasonably do. So I've been running a lot more lately. I actually went out for a 3-mile run this morning, which is 5 kilometers, and did that. And that's the furthest I've run in probably a year. Like I can do 2 miles. I won't say easily, but I can do 2 miles, and that's not too big of a deal. But 3 miles this morning was tough, especially because I don't normally run in the mornings. I normally run after I get home from work, but the run that the 8K is actually at 7 a.m. So I was like, okay, I should at least practice sometimes running really early in the morning. So yeah, I did that, which, went fine. Slow as anything. I think I did 3 miles in about 36 minutes. So like not quick, but hey, it's something. So yeah, I've been doing that, and that's kind of it. Like it feels really boring because I feel like I just don't have time right now. Like I feel like I just, like so much of my time is being taken up by like work and classes. And again, like these are things that I have sort of taken on myself, like especially the things like the classes. It's like, well, I chose to take classes. So like I'm not blaming anyone but myself, but like I definitely feel like, things have just really kind of escalated, like, like how, things just incrementally get more busy, but it's like it's such small increments, right? So it's like you just a little bit busier, and then just a little bit busier, and then just a little bit busier, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my god, like I can't do it anymore. So that's kind of how I feel lately, and I just I'm really ready for one, for vacation, and for two, to kind of do something different soon. But yeah, speaking of vacations, so not this week, but next week is our fall break here, and so that's my next visit to Wesley in Alabama. And I'm really excited because, for one thing, I get to see Wesley again, and for another thing, we're actually going to take sort of an overnight trip up to Nashville, because Nashville is only about 2 hours north of Huntsville, and so, it's a quick trip, and there's plenty of fun things to do in Nashville. I know some of you guys have recommended some places to go, so I'm going to kind of compile a list of those, and I think I saw a yarn store that I was like, yes. But I'm just really excited, partly because that week is the week of my birthday as well, so I will be one step closer to being old. But it'll also be an excuse to eat, gluten-free cupcakes and stuff like that. So that'll be fun. But yeah, I'm just trying to kind of make it until then, because things are just going to be busy. Like this week is going to be busy. And then if I can just get through this week, next week will be a little bit less busy, because with fall break, we don't have the labs running. So that takes a big load off of my plate. And it means I can catch up on some things. So yeah. And I had the midterms in both of my classes already, so that's not going to happen this week or next week. So that'll be good. But yeah, I feel like I'm rambling now. I think that's going to be it for me today. Thanks very much for hanging out with me, and I will hopefully see you guys maybe next weekend. And I'm really going to try and vlog the trip to Huntsville next time. I'm really going to try to, because I really need to get back on my vlogging game, especially if I want to do Vlogmas this year, which I really want to do. It means I need to get back on my vlogging game, so hold me to that, people. But anyway, I will see you guys again next time. Bye.